Welcome to the VoiceMe Podcast, information and advice on the world of voiceover presented by voiceme.co.za, the South African search directory for voice artists and related services. I'm Andrew Sutherland, founder of VoiceMe, and in today's episode, I wanted to go into the topic of authentic casting in the world of voiceover. We'll be looking at some fantastic guidelines from the National Association of Voice Actors, that's NAVA in the USA, but we're going to connect these principles to something a lot closer to home, the South African voiceover scene. Whether you're a voice actor, a casting director, or just curious about why representation matters, this episode's for you. NAVA has put together some brilliant best practices that ensure casting is done in a way that truly reflects the lived experience of the characters and communities involved. And if you want to check out those, there's a link in the show notes. But how do these translate to our own context here in South Africa? Well, firstly, we have diverse languages and cultures. South Africa has 11 official languages, each with its own nuances, accents, and dialects. So when a voice artist accurately embodies a particular language or dialect, it resonates more deeply with your target audience. Our history and cultural complexity mean we've got countless personal narratives waiting to be told. Casting someone who has genuinely lived the experience, whether it's growing up in the rural outskirts or navigating city life in Joburg or Cape Town, brings a level of authenticity that can't be faked. And many South Africans have grown up seeing or hearing their cultures misrepresented or ignored, either through caricature or stereotypical accents, or simply just being overlooked. By casting authentic voices, we help break down these outdated stereotypes, encouraging respect and understanding across all communities. So I'm going to go over NAVA's 8 best practices for authentic casting and look at them through a South African lens on why they're crucial to us. Number 1, understand terminology. With so many languages and cultures, it's key to know how people want to be referenced. For instance, a speaker from Limpopo might identify with a specific dialect of Sepedi. Another may prefer the term isiNdebele rather than the older South Ndebele references. Ask, don't assume. Language isn't a one-size-fits-all. Even within the same language group, accent and terminology can vary significantly between regions. Take Cape Flats English, for example. If you're not sure, ask the person directly. Even within the same community, people can have totally different takes on how they want to be identified. So if you've had a previous experience with one person from an underrepresented or marginalized group, don't assume that reflects how everyone in that community feels. A great example is neurodiversity. It's a spectrum, and especially with conditions like autism, there's no single definition or set of symptoms that applies to everyone who's neurodivergent. There's also no such thing as a neurodiverse sound. Everyone's experience and way of expressing themselves is unique. Number 2, expand character profiles and break down specifications. NAVA's guidelines say to avoid stereotypes, tropes, outdated verbiage, and seek authentic, multi-dimensional portrayals. We have complex identities here in South Africa. When writing character breakdowns, dig deeper than Zulu speaker or Afrikaans speaker. Consider their location, rural versus urban, their socio-economic background, and other cultural factors. Be explicit about lived experience. If the story revolves around, say, a vendor-speaking character raised in Gauteng, actively seek out actors who share that background. They'll bring real nuance to the performance. It's also important to recognize how systemic white supremacy has influenced the language we often see in casting calls. One example is the phrase, no accent, which immediately doesn't make sense because everyone has some kind of accent. In reality, it often implies a bias towards a white, European-sounding voice, which dismisses the many other authentic voices and experiences out there. It's confusing for performers and ends up being a subtle way of excluding diverse talent. On a related note, be honest about what you're really looking for in a role. Don't say you're seeking all ethnicities, all ages, or all abilities if you've already narrowed the criteria down before the call goes out. If the spec is already decided, let people know from the start so you can find the right match without misleading anyone. Number 3, open casting calls wider. Much like in other countries, our industry can inadvertently limit opportunities to a smaller, more privileged pool of talent. Keep this in mind and consider broader platforms that represent diverse talent. Making a conscious effort goes a long way toward uncovering hidden gems who might otherwise be overlooked. Talent really is everywhere, but opportunities aren't always shared equally. So if you want to connect with underrepresented communities, you've got to move beyond the same old casting lists. You'll discover incredible actors who simply never had the invite before. Also, don't limit opportunities based on stereotypes or preconceptions either. Actively include performers from minority groups such as LGBTQIA+ talent and actors with disabilities, even for mainstream roles that don't explicitly call for a specific background. They can bring unique skills and perspectives that you might otherwise miss. And finally, watch out for tokenism. If you cast someone just to tick a box, you're missing the bigger picture. Look beyond a person's primary identity or surface-level traits and value the full range of their abilities. That's how you make truly inclusive casting a reality. Number 4, make accessibility and accommodations known. Disability can very often be overlooked in casting calls. Make sure to mention if you're open to remote recordings or any needed accommodations, such as interpreters or wheelchair-friendly spaces, so performers know from the start that they're included. Universal design benefits everyone. Larger font scripts, flexible scheduling, or remote submissions aren't just for people who openly identify as disabled. These moves help everyone feel more welcomed. Number 5. Remember that underrepresented groups are not a monolith. South African communities are vast and varied. Labeling someone simply as colored or black erases the difference in language, geography, and cultural practice that truly shape an individual's story. The same applies for Indian, white, and any other demographic group. A Zulu-speaking person living in a primarily Afrikaans region will have very different life experiences than one raised in KwaZulu-Natal. Digging into these unique backgrounds leads to more layered and compelling characters. LGBTQIA+ voice actors shouldn't be pigeonholed into a specific sound based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. There's no such thing as a singular, queer, trans, or non-binary voice. Those assumptions come from harmful stereotypes and don't account for the full range of how people actually speak. The same is true for other groups as well. Not all neurodiverse individuals are emotionless. Even when it comes to an androgynous sound, remember that not everyone who sounds that way is non-binary, and not all non-binary people sound androgynous. It's much more effective to describe the vocal qualities you want, the tone, cadence, or energy, rather than relying on stereotypes or rigid labels. 6. Realize that authentic casting is the starting point. When a voice artist can draw from genuine personal experiences, the authenticity elevates the entire project. Audience can tell right away when a performance is heartfelt and real, especially if you're casting someone to play a role tied to South Africa's complex socio-political history. It's vital to honor those narratives by hiring people who have lived under those exact conditions or contexts. 7. Support underrepresented actors. Go beyond checking boxes. Yes, cast them, but also provide them with the tools and mentorship to succeed. Talk to them about industry norms, potential pitfalls, and help them navigate any backlash from portraying certain roles, especially in politically sensitive contexts. If you're a voice artist from a more privileged background, consider asking, is this my story to tell? Sometimes the most meaningful act of allyship is stepping aside so someone with genuine ties to that experience can take center stage. 8. Seek out better representation at all levels. South Africa's VO industry should really encourage more diversity among producers, directors, agency heads, and casting directors. When decision makers are diverse, stories naturally reflect broader realities, and this creates ongoing opportunities. Building partnerships with historically marginalized communities shouldn't be a one-off. Keep the doors open for future projects, for training, and even internships. So how do we as an industry make authentic casting happen in practice? Firstly, learn the landscape. From the languages spoken to the historical context, South Africa offers a vast canvas for storytelling. The more you know about a culture, the better you'll be at identifying authentic voices. Embrace accents. Terms like neutral South African accent can hide a bias towards a white or suburban-sounding accent. Recognize the validity of all accents around the country and celebrate the full range. And then stay open-minded. With all our official languages and numerous cultural subgroups, you might discover new approaches and styles you hadn't even considered. Staying flexible can truly lead to memorable performances. At its core, authentic casting is about so much more than ticking a box for diversity. It's about reflecting the real tapestry of our entire nation, its languages, the cultures, and all of the lived experiences in the characters we bring to life. If you want to dive deeper into NAVA's specific guidelines for your next casting call, check out their full article in the show notes. Remember, when we cast voices that truly resonate with a character's background and culture, we're not only paying homage to that character's story, we're also honoring our audience's diverse realities. So next time you're scouting for a voice, whether it's for an advert or an educational project or the next big animation, keep an open mind and an open heart, and let's make sure South Africa's many voices are heard, represented, and celebrated. And that's all for this week's episode. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and my support team at support@voiceme.co.za. Leave a comment here or give me a call on 0861 VoiceMe. That's 0861 864 2363 if you're in South Africa. And to sign up for a VoiceMe profile, register from the homepage at voiceme.co.za. I strongly believe a constructive social environment for our users, whether they be artists, clients, producers, or talent agents, is highly beneficial for our industry. Like, follow, and engage with VoiceMe and each other on @VoiceMeSA on all social networks. If you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe, turn on automatic downloads, or click the bell icon to get notified so you don't miss our next one. I'm Andrew Sutherland, and that's it from me here at VoiceMe for this week. Cheers for now.